in looking at that, just to kind of catch you guys up, because we had a little meeting just to discuss looking at the anchor papers and looking at stuff and where we wanted to go, is we were trying to really find a standard in noise that kind of went through every grade level. Since this group is a K or a 1-4 group, we were looking at trying to find a standard. And one of the things that we were noticing, not seeing that there was something that was actually hit in every single grade level, that what we were noticing in our writing, and the kids writing, what was missing from the stories were the idea of sort of an internal dialogue of what's going on. More of a bed-to-bed story listing, this is happening, and that's happening, and this is happening, without any emotion or feeling or anything attached to it of excitement. And so what we started thinking about is the internal dialogue or reactions. In first grade, we noticed that there was the standard, the very last standards is, in some cases, began to recount not just events, but also reactions signaled. Phrases like, I wondered, I noticed, I thought. And so it asks us to look at identifying expected outcomes for our low SES students. And it goes on to say that we identified our most pressing students. What are the goals for these students during the research lesson? So I guess we have to decide how a research lesson is going to look to develop goals, or we can develop goals and then design the lesson, because there's many ways to look at how to do that.
Oh, to see growth along the rubric, or to get students to write to standard? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yes.
It's right underneath the timeline.
And I think among those kids, I mean, right now, I just want to see growth. That's all. I just want my papers to get better.
Well, and that's realistic, to see growth along the way.
Yeah, and I'm conflicted about that, because I feel like that is definitely realistic, in that that I would say for most of my teaching career that's always been my goal, is just to move kids further and then to move them as far as they can go, you know. But I think that with the focus on standards and achievement gap, that what comes up is the idea of, like, if you're just saying I'm going to move every kid further, are you getting every kid to standard? You know, so. And if you're just happy with progress, then some kids need to make more progress than other kids need to make, so that keeping that eye on the prize, kind of like bringing all kids to here, makes you, I think, have to work harder with some kids and not just say everybody's going to make progress. You know, so.
But I think if I'm changing my style of teaching writing, that there is going to be more growth. And if I'm doing more modeling with my own writing, which I've never done, and with picture books, which I've done very little of, I think that there's going to be greater growth. And of course, at the end, we all want them to be here. But I think you have to do it just like reading groups and math groups. You're going to have writing groups, or you're going to have to do mini lessons to different kids, which I've never done in writing because I'm so overwhelmed with conferencing, and I still am, but somehow. Because I definitely want to get them where they're supposed to be. But it's kind of an overwhelming task, considering where they're starting, some of them. And I can't make up for the experiences that they haven't had. I can try, but...
I think it's an unrealistic expectation to start now with, I mean, it's a lofty goal to reach standard, but I don't think we can start in January and expect everyone. We can hope, we can work toward it, but I think it's a self-defeating purpose if we set ourselves out to do that and we fail. You know, not that failure is a bad thing, but what do we need to work on? I don't think it's realistic to expect that all students are going to get there, given the time we have.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they will necessarily, but I feel like that's what I want to work for, you know.
Have
is
that
that
as
I want to work beyond moving everybody forward.
Okay.
You know, I want to have a goal that I'm going to get my, and you know, I mean, when I think about particular kids in my class, and I think, can I really get this child to standard? Well, you know, I'm going to do everything that I can, and will they get to standard? I don't know. That's my goal.
Right.
You know, so, and I think that, like, part of the you know, the mandate from the district about closing the achievement gap and, you know, the pressure that's upon us, and what we talked about at the beginning of the year is, you know, while we pick our low SES kids is when we need to close the achievement gap. This is the group of kids that we're talking about. So what are the strategies that help these kids the
Right.
most?
And I think that's what we really need to think about in this
Right.
lesson. Okay. I
And,
mean,
and,
I'm
you know,
willing to make that a goal.
and, you know, I think just like when we learn about ITI strategies and, you know, good strategies for second language kids, that those are good strategies that are good for all kids, you know, that all kids benefit from that. But I'm wondering, if there's something more that these SES kids need to make that strategy even more effective, that's what I would think about that.
And my initial reaction is that, you know, really concrete examples like teacher work or something from a piece of literature where they can kind of pick that apart and internalize those examples is really going to help them. I mean, it will help all children, but it will help the kids who haven't had those experiences because they've got, you know, the thing sitting in front of them that they can really chew over. So I feel like we're on the right track.
Well, and also, this is very clarifying for me because the way that you know, like living the life of the writer in this NCE unit, the way that they're both set up and the way that Ralph Fletcher stuff is all set up, is that each of these are one-day things. So you're saying you'd spend 7 days on developing this strategy. And I thought it's a one day and then the next day you do a different strategy and the next day you do a different strategy, and, you know.
So you need to think in terms of strings of mini lessons rather than activities here, there, and, you know,
Right.
random
See, that's
activities.
different for me because that's not how any of the materials look. You know, so that misled me into thinking, and I ended up doing a whole week of Magnify the Moment.
There you go.
You know, only because they weren't getting it and I wasn't going to give up.
Right.
Until they got it.
And I can show you
And then how come it's taking so many
that's
days?
You can use
I know.
multiple
Resources.
models.
Yeah, different choices.
Okay, well, I don't feel so bad.
Well, that's good. We like that.
You should be feeling really good right
Yeah,
now.
that's what you do. But I had to learn it the really hard way.
And I think that is, you know, the difficulty of teachers trying to do this work on their own, you know,
Yeah.
without the support of a team, without the support of a coach, without, you know, the principal, without, you know, it's bigger work than a number of activities, you know, as you know from any others.
Oh, I think of doing ITI without what we went through. I mean, I'm sure that's hard.